Now, the BRVM Composite Index declined by 15.79% in the first quarter of the year. And I have with me Myriam Ouattara. She's a portfolio manager at EDC Asset Management. She joins me on the line from Abidjan to discuss, what to expect from the bourse in the second quarter. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today, Myriam. But I'd like to start with a breakdown of the first quarter. I'd like to know how that played out in the Q1.
Yes, thank you so much for the invitation. Yes, as you mentioned, the market has lost about 15% during the first quarter, and we have to note that only during the month of March, the market has recorded a negative performance of 800 bips. And this performance is related to the outbreak that we all know. So the BRVM market is following the same trend as the developed market, but to a lesser extent. As you know, the first cases of the outbreak have been announced at the beginning of the month. And the consequence was this negative performance of 8%. And based on the historical data that we have, there is a 50% chance that the month of April will end with a positive performance. So two factors can influence the month of April. The first one is the reaction to the spread of the outbreak, but the second one is also the positioning of the investors to the reception of the dividends. We have to remember that on the BRVM market, the dividend payments are expected during the month of May. So this is going to be a big player, a big factor in the coming quarter. During the first quarter, what we can note is that the biggest movers include NCR, which lost 50%, Filtefac and BCC. Some of those stocks has been some surprise in terms of downgrading for the value. As we know that the banking sectors were doing pretty great during the year 2019. The note that the general trend was a significant reduction in terms of provision, and this was noted with the good results that have from the BOA stocks as well as Ecobank Côte d'Ivoire, which financial results came out yesterday with a 20% increase for the year 2019. Among the top contributors, we include Unilever and also Onatel. Onatel has shown some quite good results for the year 2019. But most of all, what we can note is that the dividend that they're showing is very attractive. We're talking about a dividend yield of 14%. So as a result of that, the stock has increased by more than 15% since the beginning of the year.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned some of the biggest winners and gainers and losers as well in the continent on the bourse. But I'd like to see if that translates into how the sectors played out.
By sector, yes, of course. So in terms of sectors, the banking sectors have done quite well in terms of results for the first after the financial relief for the year 2019. However, the market is reacting pretty bad to the outbreak, and the sectors that are feeling that hit is first the banking sectors. We have seen the companies to have more difficulties into meeting their engagement towards the banking sector. There are also the agricultural sectors. As the global demand is expected to go lower, the stocks such as PAMC and SAPH are also decreasing. PAMC has lost about 30% since the beginning of the month. Also, consumer staples companies are feeling that. We also note that the touristic sector is also hurt very bad. And one stock that is really dependent on the tourist sector is Cerver. Cerver is the catering company that is providing food to the aircraft, and the stock has lost about 29%. The sectors that we are expecting to have a good performance this year, despite the outbreak, are the consumer staples sectors, but also the telecom sector, since we know that the population is going to go towards more essential goods, but also they're going to make more and more communication using the mobile apps and the internet. So those are the two sectors that we recommend. In the In the UEMOA, however, we know that the central bank is implementing some expansionist measures in order to lower the impact of the crisis on the banking sector. There was an announcement of the reduction of the interest rate to 2.5%, which is the lowest level ever. And we expect that lower interest rate is going to be reflected on the loans by the bank.
All right, but still looking at the second quarter, though, I'm still curious to find out what stocks can bring out the most value for investors. Yes, you rightly mentioned that some of the sectors that you expect to perform well are the consumer goods and the telecom space. But when you look at the individual stocks, if you want to cherry pick, where would you think investors could likely see more value?
Mm-hmm. One of the stocks that I expect to have some better value are the stocks for which we are expecting some very good dividends. Among those stocks, there is Natel, as I've mentioned, which have a dividend yield of 14%. That stock has been so very cheap since the beginning of the year, and they're going to pay the dividends during the month of May. There's also stocks such as Ecobank Côte d'Ivoire, which dividend yield is about 12%. So those are two examples that I could give. Also, Bolloré, despite the fact that the price is feeling the heat with a decrease of 26%, the company is known as a very generous company in terms of dividend distribution. They are distributing almost 100% of their net results into dividends. So those are three examples of companies that I will recommend to buy right now, especially now that the market is that the prices that are decreasing. And they have not distributed their dividend yet. It's going to be a good opportunity for investors.
Yeah, because looking at the market now, seeing that the BRVM the Composite Index is down over 15%, and also the other BRVM 10 Index also is down about 15%. But I'm trying to look for that catalyst, that we see that could, flip this market activity and see how we could get more positive. Do you think that catalyst could come in the first quarter earnings?
Sorry, can you say that again? Which catalyst are you talking about? Can you say that again, please?
Said I'm looking for a catalyst that could flip the tide already in the markets. We've seen that the market is down about 15%, both the BRVM Composite Index and the BRVM 10 Index. But then looking at how we can get more out of this market, what kind of catalyst are we looking at in the market? Do you think that could come in the place of the first quarter earnings?
Yes, I understand what you mean. In terms of catalysts, the dividends are the catalysts that we could get. That they are the only hope that we could have to have a better performance for the second quarter. Also, we mentioned 1 month ago that we have the election year coming in the month of October in Côte d'Ivoire. But in the meantime, we have to deal with the outbreak, and the only catalyst that we could have is to have our economy to be very resilient to that crisis. That's the only way that the market is going to get back to a confident state and reinvest again in the stocks.